How's it going, guys? Welcome to Out of Bounds. I, of course, am your host, James Skrmetta. Thank you for tuning in for 30 more minutes of the best sports talk money cannot buy, because we do this for free, do this for all of you. We have, it's always a stacked show, but today may be even more stacked than usual. We're going to talk some reaction to the national championship game. We're going to talk NFL playoffs. We're going to talk 49ers hiring Chip Kelly. We're going to talk NFL going to Los Angeles. And I'm going to respond to a commenter who disagreed with me on Peyton Manning. So he will defend Peyton Manning in the comments, and I will defend my stance. So we are doing that. We got all kind of stuff to do. I don't have time for anything else, but I will tell you, if you want to hear me, you can hear me on iTunes, or you can do it the way that I want you to do it, or the way that I would do it. I would download the Future of Radio, the Stitcher app, search my name. I almost just broke my microphone. Search my name, and rate, review, all that fun stuff. The way that Stitcher works is that if you listen to me, it knows what I do, so it'll automatically fill your playlist with like Bill Simmons and other sports-themed stuff. So it's kind of like Spotify or Pandora, but with podcasts. So go ahead and go to the App Store, download Stitcher, look for me, rate and review. I'll love you forever. Now let's go ahead and get into the show. I told you, we're not wasting any time. We're not doing any house cleaning. We're going to jump right into this thing. Let's go ahead and jump right into the national championship game. It's going to give me PTSD just thinking about this game again. I was actually going to do a whole podcast on the national championship game. But Gunkel big timed me per usual, so I couldn't get in touch with him. Then my former producer big timed me, had some huge shindig party, some big surprise party, didn't invite me or Gunkel, so I got big time by that. And I was also absolutely gutted, absolutely heartbroken at having Bama minus 6.5 and the way that the game ended. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that briefly and kind of talk about the state of the SEC and college football in general. The game was a classic, an all-timer. I mean, it was a lot like the Vince Young USC Rose Bowl. It was a lot like that with, huge powerhouse. Alabama was playing the USC role, but don't get this twisted. There was not anywhere near the amount of talent on the field in the national championship game as there was the USC-Texas game. If you look at just the coaches that were on the sidelines, it's insane. Almost every assistant became a huge head coach. You had Mac Brown, you had Pete Carroll, you had Matt Leinart, you had Heisman winners all over the field. I mean, you had Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, and Vince Young in the same game, and for the national championship. USC had won 2 in a row. We're going for the third. Texas, this kind of upstart underdogish team, they had first-round draft picks all over the shop. I mean, it was an incredible game, but I'm not here to talk about that. The Alabama-Clemson game had that same feel. Deshaun Watson, very Vince Young-esque, was crushing Bama with his legs and his arm. Set the all-time record for the national championship as far as yards. Broke Vince Young's record, as a matter of fact. And it was a great game. Start to finish, it was a fantastic game. And in my preview for the game, I said we would know automatically what kind of a game we're going to have on our hands. If Clemson could not run the football, if Deshaun Watson could not run the football, they were toast. They were absolutely done. And immediately you saw that he could run the football. And immediately you saw that he was going to be able to run the football, and that gave Alabama trouble, which is what we said from the beginning. That was not a surprise. As long as he could do it, then they would be fine. They could not run the football as far as the halfbacks, as far as running backs at all. Deshaun Watson, we said it in the pre-show, he had to have a Heisman-winning season condensed into one game, and he did. If they win that game, I mean, you could not say enough about what Deshaun Watson did. It was an absolutely heroic performance against the best defense in the nation, and I was surprised they were tied at halftime, to be honest. I was surprised when it was 14-14 at halftime. I was telling everybody I was watching it with, Bama has gotten beaten in the first half. The fact that they're tied is good for Bama. That's a win for Bama, because they should be down. And Nick Saban, you got to believe that Nick Saban, when he gets in the halftime, if you let him make adjustments, he will. And they kind of unleashed Coker in the second half a little bit, And there was some huge plays. Coker made an incredible throw on a long third down that set up a touchdown. Of course, the onside kick, greatest executed onside kick of all time. You couldn't have thrown it any better. You had the Derrick Henry punching it in, but let's go to the gambling side of it, because that's what I really want to talk about. If you don't gamble, not a big deal. Don't ever start, whatever. If you do gamble, then you understand that the national championship game was like the greatest gambling roller coaster ever. You had Clemson. If you had Clemson, you were up the whole game until 40 seconds. You were up until 40 seconds where Derrick Henry scores. And you're staring down the barrel saying, we have to score a touchdown in 30 seconds with no timeouts against the best defense in the game. And y'all did it with 12 seconds left. If you're Bama, you're down the whole game. At one point, down like 17 points if you add in the spread. And you get it back, and you get it back. And you get to Derrick Henry running the ball, get stopped. And you're sitting there wondering, like, do I want him to get stuffed again? And then they kick a field goal? Well, what if they don't kick the field goal? I don't want to not have the points, so maybe I should root. You don't even know what to root for. And not to mention the game's going on, just exciting just watching the game, and money's, going back and forth. Then Derrick Henry scores, and you're like, jubilation after the onside kick and after the kick return and all this jubilation. Then you watch Deshaun Watson go down the field in 30 seconds and 6 plays and throw a touchdown, meaningless touchdown with 12 seconds left to stab you in the heart. And then the team that you picked to win wins. So you're right, but you're also wrong. And it's just, that's gambling. And that's what it is. I know Vegas said there was a $10 million swing from losing $10 million to making $10 million off of that meaningless touchdown. But hell of a game. And just a quick thing on bowl season, because we're already messing up with the time. We have too much to talk about. The SEC, I said it all year. They were so bad. They were terrible to watch. Every single week we took unders, and every single week we said it's just a bunch of nothing. It's the worst. It's awful. Then they go into the bowl season, smash everyone. Just pick them apart. Aside from Michigan, they slaughtered people. And they win the national championship. And this is a weak Alabama team. Offensively, this might be the worst Bama team Nick Saban's had. Defensively, it's good, but it's not their best by any means. And that it just happened. Like, it was just crazy. I was in a conversation the day after, and we were talking about where's the SEC at now. And the whole year I was in the camp that the SEC was being caught up with. Ohio State, Florida State, even Clemson, Notre Dame, those teams, Stanford, all those teams are catching up with the SEC, the big dogs. But the conferences seemingly have never been more far apart. Michigan State got thrashed. Northwestern got thrashed. And Northwestern got beat by Tennessee. It's not like they got beat by Alabama. They got beat by Tennessee. Mississippi State, all these, Oklahoma, Ole Miss did. It's all these 10-win teams playing these huge games. And it's not like they had a cupcake schedule. They played Michigan State, who was a top 4 team. You had Northwestern, who was number 13, going into the bowl games. You had Oklahoma State, who was playing in the Sugar Bowl. You had all these teams, and the SEC just systematically destroyed them. Every team. I think Florida and Texas A&M are the only 2 teams to lose. So, where I'm sitting, the SEC has to get better. The SEC this year, I would think, was in a down year. Florida literally could not score more than 10 points. Georgia didn't have a coach, didn't have quarterbacks, everything that happened with them. Tennessee was losing games they weren't supposed to lose. Ole Miss lost to Memphis. All this stuff was happening, and it was like, okay, well, I see the SEC is getting weaker. I see it. Their quarterbacks were nobodies. The best quarterback in the conference was Chad Kelly. Besides him, Dak Prescott, I guess. LSU didn't even have a quarterback. Auburn barely had a quarterback. Jake Coker was playing for Alabama. Will Grier from Florida is gone. All these 2 quarterbacks left from A&M. All this stuff's happening, and they go into the bowl games and dominate everyone, and that's it. So you have to think that the SEC is going to get better. You have to think that next year these teams will be better. They have to be better. And then what's going to happen when these teams get great? I mean, Tennessee's just going to get better. Dobbs isn't going anywhere. Georgia has to get better. I mean, it can't be worse. Ole Miss, I mean, they're not going anywhere. Chad Kelly's coming back. They're losing Kimdichie, but he didn't play for a whole month. His last game was the Memphis game. LSU, Leonard Fournette's coming back. They find a quarterback. Who knows? This conference was weak. This year and last year. So I think that college football is going to go back to this SEC dominance. The only team, the Big Ten has the only chance to catch the SEC. And that has to, and if you go back and listen to all the shows we've done before college football, I said the exact same thing. That is so heavily reliant on Michigan and Ohio State not just being good, but being top 5 teams. Michigan and Ohio State have to be playoff teams, and Michigan State, Wisconsin, those teams have to be good. Because if Michigan's 10 or 11, Ohio State's 7, and then that's it, Michigan State's gets throttled, then it's just impossible to count the Big Ten as the best conference. So I think the SEC, and we're going to have a huge discussion on this. Hopefully we can get Gunk and we can do a proper college football podcast. But I can't spend 15 minutes on it. We got too much stuff to talk about. So let's go ahead and switch over. Let's switch to let's do the NFL to Los Angeles. This surprises me 0%. 0%. If you were running a business, if you were running the Rams, why would you not go to LA? This is an owner's dream. Nothing wrong with St. Louis, but Los Angeles is the second biggest city media-wise in the world. New York and Los Angeles. Okay? The NFL is the biggest business in the world. They don't have a team in Los Angeles. Any owner in the league, especially one like St. Louis or a market like that, would kill to go to Los Angeles. So I'm not surprised at all on the business end. What I will say, my take from the whole thing, is that I think the NFL loves Los Angeles way more than Los Angeles wants the NFL. There's a big difference with Los Angeles and the most comparable market, New York. New York is a city where people are born there, people are raised there, and there's like New Yorkers, right? You know what a New Yorker is. You know the stereotype, you know the accent, you know it. There's not a Los Angeles. There's not a stereotype, what is it, like eating fish tacos, surfing, long blonde hair, driving BMWs. Like that's just a rich kid, right? Really think about it. Like stereotype a Los Angeles person. Like what do they sound like? They sound like a Valley person? Okay, well, you know what those people don't do? Watch sports. Los Angeles does not care about the NFL. They do not care about if you remember before the Clippers got good, they did not care about the Clippers at all. The Lakers are bad. They still have Kobe Bryant, but they're bad. Nobody cares about the Lakers. Los Angeles does not care about teams unless they're winning. The Dodgers, I mean, it's just all these teams you can point at. And the Rams are not going to be good immediately. It's just a bad team. The Los Angeles population is transplant people, right? They're in Los Angeles because they're either done with work, done with worrying, they've made it, they've figured it out, or they're like hungry actors. I don't even really know. What I do know is New York is completely different. New York is made up of people who live in the cold, who are perennially, I don't want to say depressed, but perennially, I can't even say the word. They're always upset. They're always angsty, angry, right? I mean, you go listen to Mike Francesa, one of my favorite people in sports radio. You know, a huge role model. Francesa's a surly old man. He's a New Yorker. That Brooklyn accent. Those people are packed in like sardines. It's freezing cold most of the time. They're working these hard jobs, living in 800 square foot apartments, paying $2,000 a month for rent. You know, New York is totally different than Los Angeles. And those are the people that love the Mets, right? Love the Jets. Perennial losers. New York sports teams haven't been good ever. The last time the Giants have won Super Bowls, but it's not like they've been great. The Giants somehow kind of sneak in and do their thing. They're not these great powerhouse teams. You have to go back to when the Knicks or when the Yankees were really good in the late 90s. And I subscribe to a theory that people like to lose just as much as they like to win. That struggle, that feeling of struggle. If you've played Madden or NCAA, and there's two types of people that play when you play your career mode, right? You either crank it up to a high difficulty and you struggle. You lose some games. You may go if you're playing Madden, you make it 10-6, fight for a division title, and you love that. You love the competition. You love the struggle side of it. You love the last game of the season really means something. You love that. Or there's some people who crank it to a normal difficulty, win 70-0 every game, go undefeated for 10 years in a row, set every record, win every MVP, win every Super Bowl, never are within 20 points of anybody. Some people like it that way. That's the Los Angeles people. Some people like it the other way. That's the New York people. So I really don't think Los Angeles cares about the Rams at all. And it's not going to be this big shift of we're all Rams fans. Go Rams. They've been gone for 21 years. Los Angeles has done pretty damn well for 21 years without an NFL team. What I'm saying is it's not going to be what they think it's going to be. It's not easy to have an expansion team in a city like that where people have a lot of other stuff going on and expect it to take off. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if it kind of stunk, for the Rams or whoever, the Los Angeles Rams. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little bit of a fallback or a little bit of not what they expected from the NFL looking at Los Angeles. But now let's jump into another topic. See, this is why I need our shows. We have so many topics, and y'all come here for the information. Y'all don't want to listen to Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. Y'all don't want to listen to these people, so you come to me. That's why we need 3-hour shows 5 days a week. But the only way that can happen is with you guys' support on Stitcher, on iTunes, on YouTube, all that stuff. Now let's go to San Francisco. Chip Kelly, new head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. So what does that mean for Colin Kaepernick, the guy who was benched? Former franchise quarterback. Former most dangerous player in the league. Been to a Super Bowl, been to NFC Championship games. You know what he can do. I'll tell you, I personally think that Colin Kaepernick is about to be the man. I think Chip Kelly can coach. I don't think to say that he failed in Philadelphia is flat out wrong. He went 10-6, had an off year and got fired. His quarterbacks have been Michael Vick, Mark Sanchez, Sam Bradford, and Nick Foles. He made Nick Foles into the best quarterback in the league. And here's a little newsflash for you. Nick Foles sucks. All right, you watch the Rams game? Nick Foles is terrible. Colin Kaepernick is easily, and it's not even close, easily the best player or the best quarterback Chip Kelly has had in the NFL. And it's not even in the same ballpark. Chip Kelly's offense is so similar to what Colin Kaepernick wants to do. What he did at Nevada. What he did when he was great with Jim Harbaugh. You are going to see so many read options. You're going to see Kaepernick so dynamic. He can make these short passes. He can make these quick short passes. He can do that. I think Colin Kaepernick, he's going to take the league by storm again. I mean, you're talking about, I would not be surprised if Colin Kaepernick ran for 1,000 yards. Would not be surprised at all. Whatsoever. Chip Kelly will succeed in San Francisco. I'm not saying he's going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying he's Bill Walsh. But he will succeed. He succeeded in Philadelphia. 2 10-6 seasons with those scrubs at quarterback. Come on. You're talking about hard stuff. I mean, Chip Kelly basically handicapped himself by getting rid of LaShawn McCoy, getting rid of Deshaun Jackson, taking on Sam Bradford, taking on Nick Foles. I mean, he already handicapped himself. And to get where he did, the problem was the personnel. We've said that before. The problem was the control. The problem was he wanted to be GM. And it's too damn hard in the NFL to do both, to be GM and coach. And Chip Kelly found that out the hard way, bottom line. And he doesn't want to have control. And I think he's got his quarterback. He's got Carlos Hyde. I mean, coming in with Carlos Hyde and Colin Kaepernick, that's not too bad. You know, you have Anquan Bolden there, Torrey Smith. He's got some weapons sitting there waiting for him. And not just weapons, the perfect kind of weapons. The perfect. Nelson Aguilar ain't there, bro. That's good for you. You don't have to worry about Nelson Aguilar anymore. Jordan Matthews ain't there. Don't worry about him. Forget him. I mean, it's just, he will succeed in San Francisco. Colin Kaepernick will succeed. This team is going to be dangerous. Bottom line, they will be dangerous. Now, let's shift again to another topic. We'll talk about NFL playoff games. We're going to start in Denver because I want to talk also about this Peyton Manning dispute. A video of mine had about 1,100 views or so, a couple thousand views, which is no shock because we're bringing the top quality content. We're the number one. You know, we're bringing the content that no one else will bring. The local sports radio station would cut off their fingers to have 1,000 listeners, and we do it like this. But anyways, one of the commenters said, "Hey man, you really lost me. I don't agree with you. Peyton Manning's the first ballot Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning did all this stuff. Peyton Manning's the greatest. Peyton Manning should never sit a game." You know, that was his take. It's Peyton Manning. He's a Hall of Famer. Set all these records. Multi-MVP. Most MVPs in NFL history. You can't sit him. And I said, okay, you know, I feel you. And I said, look, here's the deal. Peyton Manning threw 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions this year. For the second most interceptions in the league. Peyton Manning played about 9.5 games. Peyton Manning has the worst quarterback rating in the NFL out of 34 quarterbacks, including rookies Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, including Blake Bortles, who led the league in interceptions, including Matt Hasselbeck, including Johnny Manziel, including Blaine Gabbert, including all these players, Brian Hoyer, including everyone. Peyton Manning had the worst quarterback rating in the NFL this year. Him being a first ballot Hall of Famer has absolutely nothing to do with if he should play right now. Absolutely nothing to do. Unless Brandon Stokely is walking through that door with Marvin Harrison, Edgerrin James, Reggie Wayne, and Peyton's about 10 years younger and can throw the ball about 30 yards further, it doesn't mean anything. Brett Favre, first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think I'd be picking him to start in the NFL right now. Nothing against him. It's a little thing called time. It's a little thing called age. It's a little thing called injuries. Then if you add on to the fact that Peyton Manning has been historically awful in cold weather games, dreadful in cold weather playoff games, then you add on to the fact that he can't feel his fingers. You add on to the fact that he's had neck surgeries, arm surgeries. His fingers are weak. His hand is weak. He cannot feel his hand. That's why he wears gloves, because he cannot feel the tips of his fingers. He's an NFL quarterback. Add on to that Brock Osweiler led the Broncos to the number 1 seed. And you don't think it's a question to start or to sit Peyton Manning. Let me ask you this. If you had 8 teams in the NBA playoffs, 8 teams left, and you allowed all those teams to draft players to bring into their playoff roster, do you think any of them would bring Kobe Bryant on? The answer is hell no. Why would you bring Kobe Bryant on? He can't play full games. He's hurt. He's nowhere near the athlete he once was. He can barely dunk. He can barely shoot. He's at the worst shooting percentage ever. He's terrible. Well, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. All that matters in the playoffs is what you can do right now. And Peyton Manning has failed over and over and over in this exact same spot. Cold weather, outside. And then you stack on that he's hurt and can't throw. Look, Brock Osweiler is not Joe Montana. So I understand if you're thinking about playing Peyton Manning. I totally get that. What I'm saying is you have to have the conversation of, should we start Brock Osweiler, see if we can win with him? If we can, we're not bringing in Peyton Manning. If he's struggling, our defense is probably good enough to keep us in the game, and we'll bring Peyton Manning in. Peyton Manning in relief is their best option. Peyton Manning coming in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, if Osweiler needs it, if he's struggling, and they believe that Peyton Manning can do something, fine. Peyton is lucky that Brock Osweiler has kind of regressed as he's first gotten the starting role, because if Brock Osweiler was Kirk Cousins, this would not even be a conversation. Ask yourselves that. If Kirk Cousins was the backup quarterback for the Denver Broncos and was playing the exact same way as he was with the Redskins, would you sit him for Peyton Manning? I cannot imagine the situation where someone would say, I would sit Kirk Cousins for Peyton Manning just because Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer. I cannot imagine it. It's with anyone. Ben Roethlisberger is probably going to play at about 60% this week. All right? If Ben Roethlisberger can't throw the football 40 yards downfield, if his shoulder's popping in and out of socket, I get that it's Ben Roethlisberger. I get that he's won Super Bowls. I get that he's the best player on the field, maybe in your franchise history. But you've got to play someone else. He's injured. If he can't go, play someone else. Just like they tried to do last week. They tried to play Landry Jones. They tried to get out of there with a win. They couldn't do it. So they brought Big Ben back in. And then the fiasco happened. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with the bring him in if you have to as emergency, whatever. But Peyton Manning is not Peyton Manning. This is not the guy who throws for 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's what he used to be. He used to be plug in and play Peyton Manning. That ain't the case anymore. That is not the case. You do not know what you're going to get when you play Peyton Manning. You could get 30 picks. You could get 5 picks in the first half. You could get... look, Peyton Manning he cannot take a snap under center. He cannot throw the ball more than probably 50, 60 yards downfield. He cannot move at all. He's fragile. He can't hit. He will not get hit. He'll waste possessions. He'll waste plays by getting rid of the ball. He affects the running game because he can't take snaps under center. He can't do halfback stretches because he can't move laterally. It's a different Peyton Manning. I get it. If you like Peyton Manning, if you're a Peyton Manning fan, totally get it. But it's not the same quarterback just because of his pedigree, just because of his resume. Not the same deal. 85-year-old man comes into my office and says, hey, I was the top salesman in 1955. Well, yeah, man, but there's a lot of different stuff going on now. There's things on social media, computers, stuff you're not really sure of. It's different. Peyton Manning, same deal. Hey, in 2008, I threw 50-something touchdowns. Well, yeah, but that was two neck surgeries ago, and you could feel your fingers. So I love the comments, though. Keep the comments coming. They elevate the show. That commenter has made my show better by starting the discussion. So thank you very much, guys. Always put the comments below when you disagree or whatever. And who knows, maybe you could incite a segment here on the show. So thank you again to the commenter. And I hope he continues to listen. I hope he continues to comment. And I hope that he subscribes and all that stuff. Real quick, because we are already over time. Real quick, let's go to the rest of the game. Seattle, Carolina. And Denver, Pittsburgh. Denver's going to win because Pittsburgh is so hurt it's not even funny. Roethlisberger's playing, if he plays, 50% at best. Antonio Brown's eggs are scrambled. So I'm going to say Denver wins that one. Seattle, Carolina. Seattle is that team right now that's just like we don't belong here, but we're hot, and what do you want us to do? They should have lost to Minnesota, bottom line. And they're playing at Carolina, at the best team in football's place, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Carolina won that game. If Seattle won that game. I'm going to root for Carolina. I'm going to pick Carolina. I hope Cam Newton, that'll be the final thing that says Cam Newton has arrived if he can beat this Seattle team. But Russell Wilson has Jesus working on his side. But I'll say Carolina. I'm rooting for Carolina, openly rooting for them. In the Saturday games, Green Bay, Arizona. I think Arizona wins in a rout. I'm talking 10, 14, 17 points. Green Bay, I don't know where they came from in Washington. I don't know how that happened, but I think Arizona's going to put it on them. Kansas City, New England, interesting game. The most interesting game of the week. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kansas City won this game. New England, struggling. Gronk has been hurt. Edelman, we don't know. He's rusty maybe. I have no idea. They still have Tom. They still have Tom Brady. And Kansas City, you know they're going to give you. They're going to give you a straightforward. They're going to play their game and hope that they can beat you. It's in Foxborough. If Kansas City kind of starts picking them apart with Travis Kelce, if Macklin is playing, I don't know how great Macklin's going to be. But I'll say New England, but it's going to be a damn close game. And I would not be surprised if Kansas City won, but I will say New England, guys. So I'm sorry I rushed through that at the end. We had a ton of topics and too much to get into a half-hour show. I do not want to keep you guys for longer because we have a handshake agreement on a half-hour show, guys. But I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope you watch the games. You will hear me again on Monday to recap everything that we see. Until then, guys, I will talk to you later. Have a great weekend.